Welcome to our first ZLaunch partnership. Really excited to welcome our Zipmex community, our ZMT holders and people all around the region. Whether you're in Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore or right here in Australia, we're delighted to have you join us today. Today we're going to be introducing YLDY. YLDY is our first ZLaunch partner. What that means is for ZMT holders, you can hold your ZMT in a launch pool, effectively staking it, and earn free tokens from YLDY. For our ZLaunch partnerships, we want to make sure we pick long-term projects that have great fundamentals and are building things for the future. YLDY certainly ticks that box for us, and certainly our community seem very excited about it. The feedback to this session was overwhelming, with a few thousand people responding with some questions. So I'm delighted today to be joined by the co-founder and CEO of YLDY, Sebastian. Welcome, Seb.
Lovely to be here, Nathan. Thanks for having me.
I guess to get us started, in your own words, tell us a little bit about YLDY.
Yeah, fantastic. YLDY, as you sort of alluded to, is one of the leading DeFi projects on Algorand. We were sort of fortunate, I guess, to be the first DeFi project built for the Algorand ecosystem. So Algorand is have to pull up the prices today, but last time I checked, it was sort of a $20-25 billion ecosystem, growing exceptionally fast with a big presence across North America. We've gone and built out the first suite of smart contracts to allow for DeFi functionality that people who familiar with Zipmex or familiar with any sort of traditional Ethereum DeFi products, now have that opportunity to participate on the Algorand ecosystem. So that looks like staking, that looks like swapping, that looks like NFT lotteries, it looks like NFT prize games, and going forward into the future, sort of more of a automatic market maker and potentially a launch pad as well. So yeah, lots in our pipeline, and very excited to share what we're up to with your users.
Yeah, fantastic. And we certainly saw our users really excited about the project. I think we had $5 million US worth of ZMT locked with just over a day in there. So yeah, great take-up rate from the community. And I'm sure they're really looking forward to hearing a little bit more about the product, the roadmap.
Yeah, we were shocked and thrilled just to see those numbers come up. I think, there's something beautiful about this, ecosystem, and especially, the things that you guys have been building, where, there seems to be just very genuine interest in, a new project. So from our point of view, we're delighted to be able to share with your users some of the things that are coming up. In the near term, we have liquidity pools. So, that'll be, quite a, for the Algorand ecosystem, that's going to be a world first. So that means people are going to be able to stake, the tokens that they're earning in the automatic market maker and be able to earn them, across our platform. Also quite, relevant to today's market is an NFT marketplace. I think you can't really, do anything in crypto at the moment and not be paying deference to a huge amount of interest for NFTs. And so, in the near term, so in just over 3 weeks or so, we should have up our NFT marketplace for the Algorand ecosystem. That's something that's sort of been born out of, I guess, it's a community-driven project in many respects. It's we've had sort of 300 or 400 creators across Algorand reaching out, asking us to build specific things for them, to allow them to auction, to allow them to trade easily, to allow them to do all sorts of to bespoke ways in how they want to actually trade and list their NFTs and then distribute them. So we've sort of taken quite a lot of feedback from the community and are very excited to launch that product as well. We've seen the great impact that those types of things have had in other layer one protocols. We sort of saw with protocols like Solana and the impact of having a robust NFT ecosystem as well. So we're very focused on following that trend and leading it and bringing that into Algorand as well.
Yeah, amazing. I think we've certainly seen the rise of smart contracts, NFTs across all the layer ones. You mentioned a few. The biggest obviously is Ethereum, that I think most of our network would be fairly familiar with. Obviously, a little bit inhibitive with some of the gas fees we're seeing with new projects. Maybe doesn't affect the Bored Apes so much, but certainly, for sure. Certainly some of the newer creators getting over that sort of gas fee hurdle. So, I think we pushed out to our community for some questions and some feedback. And one of the things that came through really sort of strongly was why Algorand? So I guess for you, tell us a little bit about the Algorand ecosystem and why you chose to build YLDY on Algorand rather than any of the other layer ones.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll take you back. We'll go into ancient history for crypto. The middle of 2020, and we were looking around as a team. Trying to decide what sort of products we wish to launch and where. So we sort of looked across the market. Obviously, DeFi, relatively in its infancy in Ethereum at this time, and we thought, well, there's great products being launched there. Where else could you launch, products? And so we looked across protocols and, had the good fortune of being, well connected to parts of the Algorand ecosystem from, the developer level, but also at an investor level. And so through our sort of, approach, we realised there was a tremendous greenfield opportunity to be the first to build an ecosystem. And for us as a team, and especially our tech team, that's a very compelling, problem to solve. How can we build something that will, impact a large number of users and users that up until we came along really didn't have a lot of options to do things that were sort of DeFi related. And so we chose Algorand for that purpose from a commercial point of view, but then also, when you actually drill into, a comparative analysis across protocols, you start to see that there's some great things to love about Algorand. One obviously is the exceptionally low transaction costs. The other is the phenomenal speed. I think, untethered, it's sort of at around 42,000 TPS, so, terrific for any DeFi transactions when you want high throughput, and then there's also so that's a sort of technical advantage, and then just as an organisation, Algorand speaks, holds a value set that we're quite aligned with as a company. One thing that we've been very vocal about is their the need for carbon neutrality or a carbon negative approach to building anything in this time, and they have been at the forefront of driving that. They're very proudly a carbon negative protocol, and we've as a company we were across at least DeFi at the time we announced were the one of the few that was going towards carbon neutrality as an organisation as well. So there was also a values alignment there, and we've been, our decision so far has proven correct. We're going into a world now in 2022 where the DeFi ecosystem is really picking up on Algorand. There's a lot of momentum now. We're seeing, a huge amount of funds come in. I think even in the last quarter alone, there's probably been over $1 billion allocated to Algorand specifically to grow the DeFi ecosystem. So tremendous, tremendous tailwinds for that ecosystem. And we look forward to sort of seeing where that goes over the next 12 or so months.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have some really key points you hit on. Like, the layer ones have obviously been growing, and I think this year alone, most of the emerging layer ones have had some incredible returns. Yeah. Algorand, as you said, I love the green aspect of it. And I like that they were doing that well before the Bitcoin FUD on green came through, right? So true. It's not just, look, there's all this noise from, the likes of Elon Musk, let's make a green thing. That's been core from day one. So, I certainly resonates really well with me. And I think, we saw a pretty good run. I think it hit the top 15 recently. So, with the rise of that ecosystem, sort of safe to say, I guess you guys are trying to be one of the first and largest builders in there. And as it rises, more and more projects become available for YLDY to build with.
Yeah, that's certainly our hope, and that when we started, and that's certainly proven true. It's a relatively understated. I think it's fair to say it's been a relatively understated protocol, but it has, as you mentioned, been hitting those all-time highs, and there's a tremendous amount of interest there. So for us, we want to keep building products that are relevant to DeFi for that ecosystem, and relevant to bring users from across the crypto market and elsewhere, and make it a very straightforward place for them to be able to interact with our products as well.
Yeah, great. And I think, one of the things that I love about your product is the cross-chain aspects. So for those who sort of don't know, when you get into the DeFi space, most projects are on a specific layer one. So they're on Ethereum, they're on Solana, or they're on Algorand. You guys are across both Ethereum and Algorand and have the ability to move between the two. That's a bit technical for me. So talk us through, I guess, how that works and what sort of value that brings to people in your ecosystem.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll start at why it's valuable, and I think this moment right now is sort of pretty demonstrative of that. I mean, we wouldn't be able to launch a project or launch our project with your users, if we hadn't sort of been a bit more been thoughtful at the beginning to make sure that our product would be as widely available as possible. In terms of the technicality, I mean, we're very proud to have built the first functional cross-chain bridge from Algorand into Ethereum, and that means that anyone who wishes to transact our token now has a forum to has a piece of tech to be able to acquire it in the Ethereum ecosystem and then bridge it over and participate in our products on Algorand. Algorand is its own it's its own language. The Algorand machine is coded in teal, so people that are building into that it's very different to how you're building on Ethereum, which is Solidity. And for example, you mentioned Solana. That's using its own language as well. So you start to see these sort of siloed or potentially siloed ecosystems, and we wanted to allow users anywhere to be able to get the best access to the best products. And so they don't need to have use a product or an inferior product in one ecosystem just because they can't, there isn't an easy pathway to transact across. And so that's sort of been forefront in our, build process. What is, the best thing for the user in this instance? And so, allowing for that functionality, critical, where it's still in its infancy, it's still just a YLDY bridge, for the YLDY token holders, but it is technology that we can see being able to expand and be used, much more decentralized manner by anyone who wishes to have that functionality in Ethereum, in Algorand, and elsewhere.
Yeah. So is it fair to say that obviously it's creating utility right now within your token, but it's almost a proof of concept to allow all sorts of things, NFTs, DeFi pools, other assets to effectively move between these chains in the future?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's we see that very directly as a business from our VC partners that we have asking us to work out how to scale out just that product as a standalone thing. How do we build a bridge product that is going to be widely used for the rest of the market? So if in a world that the Zipmex token or token holders wish to do things in Algorand, for example, that it would be very, very straightforward for them to go and do that, or any other protocol or product out there in the space. So yes, cross-chain critical, proof of concept, absolutely. And we're in, I guess, like you guys, in a very fortunate position to really work out where we go with products and what we do with the things that we've built to continue to be relevant over the coming years.
So I think probably the core, would be fair to say at the moment for your product, is the DeFi pool within the Algorand sort of space. I guess for people who maybe aren't so familiar with DeFi, it's obviously been a surgic topic. Billions and billions of dollars flowing into DeFi. Maybe give us a sort of really simple version of what that is actually doing, and I guess how you guys operate that within your product.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, our first product is basically allows anyone who has the native algo token to be able to put that into our smart contract and then be rewarded for doing that by getting YLDY they get rewarded with YLDY tokens. We then accumulate those Algorand tokens accumulate in that smart contract, and then by the virtue of what happens in Algorand, those tokens also are rewarded with a sort of percentage of algo tokens from the Algorand Foundation. And so in essence, we start allowing for this accumulation of interest into into this third pool, which we are then able to then distribute out to to those holders. So it allows them to to pool their thing, to earn aggregated interest, and then we kind of gamify that and distribute the weekly interest earned there or rewards earned there out to a specific user that's staking. And so, we've gamified that element of it. It becomes hugely rewarding for, each week for sort of certain winners of that pool, or the prize game as we call it. For example, I think maybe last week on Friday, or just yesterday, the winner would have had around $60,000 worth of algo that they won for participating in that space.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's great for them, and it speaks to the interest. I mean, I think at the moment we've got about 150 million of tokens staked into a number of our pools there. So not only is there that Algorand version of it, we also have a similar thing happening for NFTs, and so people can stake in and then win NFTs as a result. And then going forward, what we start to do that looks, would be very familiar to people who are doing things in Ethereum, is that we start to allow people to actually start swapping those tokens as well, and deciding amongst themselves, which, where they want to, swap, or where they want to have, the value, what they sort of ascribe value, to those tokens. So it becomes sort of a price discovery, swapping mechanism as well.
Yep. So I think you touched on some pretty cool stuff there, and obviously, core to your product, but I've been reading a bit about your no-loss lottery or no-loss prize game. That sounds pretty cool. If I could go down to the street and buy a lottery ticket that doesn't lose, I'd probably go do that. Yeah. But what does that actually mean? Tell us about, I guess, as a user, I'm holding this YLDY tokens. I can enter a no-loss prize game. I guess, what are the different scales on that, and what could I get as a user from that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll talk it through from the perspective of the NFT no-loss prize game. I think, that's something that still astounds us, the demand for that product, and, very happy to be building great things there for the users. So in essence, people who hold the YLDY token are able to deposit that into a smart contract, or stake it into a contract that has the chance, every week we do a draw on Wednesday to win a number of NFTs from our community. So we run a randomized number against every participant, or every wallet that has staked tokens into that smart contract, and randomly pick one of those wallets, and then that wallet has the ability to then withdraw the NFT from the pool. And so we run that each week. We have a great partner in Chainlink, which is one of the leading sort of oracles in the market, and also VRF, also randomized number generators in the market. So, completely trust, it's a trustless environment there. We don't have to, or the users don't have to rely on us as an organization to pick that. We sort of, that's completely decentralized in how it happens. And then everyone, who's participated in that pool at any time can just withdraw it. So if they don't win, they don't, there's no cost, they don't lose their YLDY or anything like that. They can just withdraw and then participate in the next week's draw as well. So, it's a product that, again, speaks to what you've talked about a little earlier. It allows us to really showcase what's possible with, with our tech, and, showcase what's possible within the Algorand ecosystem. And you can start to see that as a bit of a building block for sort of more sophisticated products. You can see where, there's a world where if creators of NFTs wanted to set up their own pools and perhaps charge for it. So maybe instead of it being lossless, they might charge $1 or something like that, just as an example. Creators can start doing things with our tech for their communities that are relevant to them, that start to allow for a much more kind of innovative business model in in how a creator can earn a living, for example. Additionally, you can see that playing out with people who want to build out sort of derivative style products or other DeFi products. They can start using this tech and building on top of it, for their own specific purpose. And so we are using that as a great example for other innovators to come in and utilize our tech, and then we want to also use it as a case study for how our automatic market maker, or whatever that looks like for us, will eventually take it will take its form from the products we've made to date.
Yeah, right. Exciting stuff, and obviously it sounds like a world of opportunity, to put it blunt, in terms of the breadth and width of where you could sort of take some of these aspects. I think we pushed out to our community some questions and asked what they wanted to know. and overwhelmingly, people wanted to know about NFTs.
Yeah,
so, it's definitely surging. Like, who doesn't? Everyone's talking about the NFT space at the moment. I guess talk us through a little bit about where you see it going. So, like, some of the feedback was NFTs are just a fad, right? They're just things that are cool. But, I think we're starting to see the adoption of it going from, that really fun, cultural-based aspect to actually starting to bridge into more mainstream applications. So I guess, it'd be great to hear your views on where you sort of see NFTs going and I guess how that would apply for you guys as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you're right that it's inescapable as a talking point at the moment. One of the reasons is that, they go for stratospheric sums.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to one of the kind of, use cases or, that's sort of evolved with NFTs is that it becomes a way for people to demonstrate their commitment to a brand or commitment to an organization or a community. I think above all else we've seen with these, not putting words in the creators of Bored Apes or anything like that, but you start seeing that they're creating not just a digital memorabilia, but they're creating a community around that, and they're creating a way for fans to participate in that. And so we certainly can see, a nice evolution from that and how that would be applicable to, to organisations. And for us, that looks like things like esports and traditional sports, where you have ways that you can actually use NFTs to commemorate big events and then have your community participate in the fandom or the celebritydom or the, celebrate that success and demonstrate that amongst their fan group. So you see a very powerful tool to, to be used for a community to demonstrate their commitment or to demonstrate their, level of fandom again. But that's not all, right? That's probably, this is NFT 1.0, right? There's a lot more that you can do with these things that, we're only just starting to see. There's a whole tranche or a whole tangent you can go off where you start seeing NFTs as tools for creating a new economy for creators themselves. I spoke about that a little earlier in this sense that creators can now decide new business models for how they want to be rewarded from selling, their art or selling their digital creations. And so you start to see a world where you can imprint royalties into the NFT itself. And so forever after, the creator of that NFT is going to be, rewarded every time that thing gets transacted. You're starting to see that gain in coming up in the music industry, in the entertainment industry, and elsewhere. Basically, where anyone has IP that is relevant to have, where there's a long tail for that IP to be traded, then all of a sudden you start having, a really clear digital way to do that. The other area which we think is quite interesting for NFTs is that it's starting to you can start to actually integrate them into social media. Yep. And so you start using them as ways for people to actually get access to other things within whatever relevant community they're at. So one thing that we're building and excited to launch in the near term is going to be NFTs that are connected to Discord servers and that will allow specific access to Discord servers for brands and for organizations. So we're working with the esports teams at the moment to create NFTs that will allow the fans of those esports teams to be able to connect to specific servers and be able to interact with the organisation and the professional players in a much more intimate environment. And so we start to create, you can start to create levels and tranches for community engagement, and you start to really bring in, you can start to bring in, you'll bring the relationship between brand and fan, much closer. And then, the whole other aspect that we can do is, anything that's possible now, with what I've talked about, but then applied to the metaverse, or whatever that thing is, whether it's Facebook or whatever Gemini ends up building and whatnot. But this world where, you start to have, NFTs that are, you can interact very directly, in the virtual world with as well.
Yeah, and I think, one of the key sort of moments, I think, that really started NFTs going was when Steph Curry, bought his Bored Ape, popped up in the Discord of the Bored Ape community and said, hey, yo, it's Steph Curry. And they're like, no, it's not. So, Instagrammed in front of the Discord to prove that it was him. And oh my God. So this community aspect for NFTs, we've definitely seen really start to power up the space. And, you almost become part of this private club. And as you said, like for esports and for these sort of creators and people to start actually rewarding and engaging with their fans, we're just starting to see the tip of that. And, I think the other trend other than NFTs is, as you said, Metaverse, right? Yeah. Everywhere at the moment. We can thank Mark Zuckerberg for his recent drop on that. And certainly, we've seen on the exchange, the Sand token, the Mana token absolutely explode off the back of some of those. The other thing that the community sort of asked around NFTs was, again, this Metaverse aspect. Do you see YLDY having application within the Metaverse? And I guess talk us through what you sort of see as a future position where you guys can play in, obviously, what everyone's talking about at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we certainly... any company that is in this environment at the moment and isn't contemplating what they're going to do there probably should ask themselves some hard questions. And so we've always built with scalable tech in mind, and we can certainly scale our tech into VR or AR applications relatively easily. When we launch the NFT marketplace, we'll have a beta version of an AR tool that will allow people to capture their NFT in augmented reality and utilize that, across social media or wherever is relevant for them. We can see that same application happening in the Metaverse where, folks who have started to engage already in that space, that you can start seeing how you could, bring the wallet and the NFT environment into that, in very simple ways to, have your avatar being able to do things with your NFTs in that space. We look to deal with, the creators of the various sort of metaverse environments to see where we can have our tech, readily applied. And that is, there's an inevitability that's going to happen. The other area, which is also quite specific and interesting, is how some of our partner projects are, or our partners are looking at interacting with it and what we're going to do with them. So our esports team partners are contemplating how they would build out an actual virtual stadium environment. So their fans can be participating and watching, real-time, games happening, in the virtual world. And so we're starting to see a lot more requests for how we can set up, virtual NFT stores for them in those stadiums, how we can actually create the stadiums themselves, or the environment with which the fans will all be, en masse, aggregate, all meeting and watching and participating, in the events that the esports teams wish to put on. And so, that is a very real proposition and something that, over the next 12 months will start to, become almost, and we hope become second place for esports fans and utilising our tech to do that.
Yeah. So I guess at the moment, right, I could just go into Twitch and watch someone streaming. So why is it different in this Metaverse type environment? Like what engagement do I get as a follower of one of these esports companies?
Yeah, well, I think that the actual experience, it's very... I hate to say this, it's very static. You're looking at a screen. There's what is this? Yeah. Whereas when you put the, put the goggles on and you're, in the world and everything around you is, you're staring at your friend or your, friend from Discord who sits 5,000 miles away, and all of a sudden, he or she is right there, and you're able to actually, start to engage with them and talk. In a way, and be watching, that same thing happening, but in real time, you start seeing the avatars of the teams themselves. That fan engagement and that, we think that the teams that do that first and do that well will be the ones that will continue to win the audiences. There is just a significant kind of user experience, like quality of life it will just far exceed what is currently possible. And it speaks, and we know that because it speaks to gamers. We know that there's a reason why it exists, and there's a reason why gamers are targeted as the the early adopters for the ecosystem. And so it's going to be the edge with, or the thin edge with which the rest of the world should likely follow, and the adoption curve as it kind of goes will gamers will drive that, and so you start to see so what does that mean for NFTs or crypto? You'll start to see a world where there will be digital collectibles available in the metaverse world. So people can walk up to their, to an NFT shop in the metaverse and buy those NFTs, or use those NFTs to actually get access to, specific things that happen. It might be that they all get to hang out in a gaming house digitally. People that hold specific NFTs get to hang out in a gaming house digitally and actually play with the, pros themselves. So you can start to see how that can, this tech enables that aspect of things happening.
Exactly, yeah. And I think, you nailed it. Like this fan engagement, this immersive sort of atmosphere, it's changing Web 2.0 to Web 3.0, which is what everyone's talking about in this space. But, the ability to join in and become part of that community, watch the stream with someone right next to you who's not next to you, and then even retain NFTs for being at that. So, I went to the FIFA World Cup in 2016 and I've got my little ticket that I keep in my scrapbook.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, now that's immersed in the metaverse and I can hang out with everyone else who was at that event with me, and we can relive that and we can talk about it and we can do more things with it. You're definitely seeing how these sort of creators and these people can start to build really immersive communities beyond just selling a ticket, for instance. And we're certainly seeing that really fly through, which is great.
Yeah, without a doubt. And there's a big part for NFTs to play in that, and we're going to continue to do our best to keep up.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely moves quickly. Yeah. I think, look, the other thing that sort of came through, I think, which is pretty fair for any sort of DeFi protocol, right, is around security, safety of funds, how you guys can sort of stand behind that. We definitely see the headlines that run in the media of, DeFi pools being hacked and, funds stolen, etc. Run us through a little bit about, I guess, how you secure your DeFi pools, and I guess how you've sort of built that from the ground up to give that sort of assurance to investors around, security of funds.
Yeah, I think, anyone operating in a new environment or a new ecosystem or, using new tech really has to think about security. It's fun to create things at speed, but, they do break, and, making sure that you're, when you're actually launching those things to the public, that, they're truly production ready. And so that's, for us as a business, is one of the values that we hold, is making sure that we're, being as thoughtful and as forthright about security as possible. What that looks like in actuality for us, that's dealing with the leading auditing firms across the world to get them to actually interrogate our smart contracts and our tech. To actually make sure that the thing is, at least from their point of view, unbreakable. And so we're fortunate. We've had a number of audits done already. We've had Halborn, which is a global leading cybersecurity firm, counts amongst its clients, top tier crypto companies such as Coinbase and SushiSwap. They've gone through our tech at a number of different occasions and given us green ticks on our security audit. But we weren't satisfied with just one firm doing that. We want to make sure that we're continually on top of things. So we also have had a second audit on our tech by Runtime Verification, again, brand name, world leading auditing firm, and especially good one for the Algorand ecosystem as well. So they come highly recommended from the Algorand Foundation. We've had both of those firms, conduct initial audits, pass them with flying colours, and then we've brought them both back, in the last few months to also run, look over our tech again, look at our new products, and as we embark on a kind of next 3 or 4 months, we'll be launching a number of new things. That all of those things have passed the sort of stringent checks and balances, from those companies. And then internally, we have a very sort of thoughtful way of how we deal with it. I won't sort of go into too much detail there, but suffice to say that it's certainly at the forefront of our minds, and we spend a lot of time and energy and resources dedicating to ensuring the safety of the tech we launch.
Yeah, great. Yeah, fantastic. And I think that's core to anything in crypto. We're very similar, very much look at custody solutions, how we keep customers' funds secure, and very proud to say that we've never had any hacks or anything like that. So great to hear that you guys have got that at the forefront of what you're doing as well. I think you mentioned a little bit about some sort of exciting things coming up. Can you talk us through what's on your roadmap for sort of the next 12 months, and what are the things you're most excited about bringing to market? Yeah,
definitely. Probably the easiest thing to say is the NFT marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we've seen the huge demand there, and very excited to launch that. We'll be off to the US. The launch will happen in the US in not too long. So this calendar year. The other products that are coming up for us as well, we're going to have a LP pool staking possible as well. So we've seen in the ecosystem an automatic market maker, or a sort of called Tiny Man launch. We're starting to see a significant amount of capital being put into pools there to allow for the swaps, and we're going to have. From the YLDY point of view, we're going to have an ability for anyone who's participating in that automatic market maker to stake their LP tokens and further incentivize, liquidity to be flowing towards any of those pools. So we're very excited about that. All of our partners have, we've launched so far through our pools have been very excited for that to happen. And I think anyone who's familiar with Pancake Swap or Sushi Swap, will see the benefit of having utility for those LP tokens. So we'll provide that. We're also, for the Algorand ecosystem, going to start putting a lot more detail around the launch pad that we've been working with the ecosystem. We have a very good sense about what is needed for, what we see as critical for a functioning, healthy DeFi ecosystem on Algorand. And so we've spent a lot of time dealing with, entrepreneurs and founders to, find folks that are building things that we think are, critical. And we're very excited to say that we've got some projects lined up to come through, and we'll be the first to sort of launch them into the Algorand ecosystem. That'll be play-to-earn gaming companies that will be launching. There'll be yield aggregating companies that will launch. We may or may not be launching some of our own, internal products, which we may or may not have already talked about on the table here. We're excited for that as well. There's a great year coming up, in 2022 for DeFi generally, but Algorand more specifically, and we're we believe our products are focused specifically to allow for that growth to be accelerated.
Yeah, amazing. It sounds like a really exciting 12 months ahead. And I think, you mentioned some very well-known crypto products, the Pancake swaps. ZMT just launched on Pancake last week. So, I think our users are a little bit familiar with what's going on in that ecosystem. So, yeah, effectively, if you're building out a similar sort of product, but on Algorand, and I guess as Algorand continues to grow and run, there's going to be more and more projects and creators and opportunities for YLDY to keep building on that ecosystem.
Yeah, without a doubt, that's the intention. And, I think we'll know we'll have succeeded if we can convince you guys to come over and build some stuff on it as well.
Well, never say never. I know our ZMT team are always looking at opportunities, so that's back to you guys. Just to finish off, one of the other things that obviously our investors want to know about is I guess around the tokenomics, right? So our ZMT holders have just been rewarded with their YLDY tokens through our ZLaunch product, which has been fantastic. As I said, filled up within 24 hours, $5 million locked in. A few investors maybe missed out because of how quickly that filled, which was great. We're about to launch, so we're going to have a listing. You can still get your hands on those. But I guess for people who've earned these tokens, the number one question they're asking us is, when can they expect their Lambo, Sebastian? Is that coming anytime soon? Or?
Well, yeah. I mean, I hope it comes soon for each and every one of your users, if that's what their heart desires. I will say that we're going off on a crypto tangent here, but I'll indulge myself, and you'll probably edit it out later, with good reason. But we have, the first ever NFT we launched in our lottery, which had similar numbers to you, sort of, multi-million dollars pool to win one NFT, and that was a flamingo in a Lamborghini, which was called our, YLDY Flambo.
Yep.
And so, I hope we, perhaps should do an NFT for everyone that participates in the pool, so at least they have an NFT Lambo or Flambo.
I think we could do that. Definitely. I think the NFTs were definitely popular when we pushed out to the community. But yeah, look, I know in all seriousness, we investors, it's up to them to take the knowledge they're getting from these sort of sessions, do their own research, and take a view. We won't speculate on price points. But I think what we can talk about is the actual tokenomics. So, can you run us through, I guess, what the supply is? What, is there things that are locked? Is it infinite? And I guess what that looks like? Yeah,
without a doubt. That's mission critical to anyone that's doing their research. So YLDY is, we're capped at 10 billion tokens. We have that launched on, obviously in Algorand. Our bridge acts as a balancing tool, and so any token that is leaving the Algorand ecosystem and coming across onto the ERC20 ecosystem, that means it's vaulted and locked on Algorand. So at any given time, the maximum supply ever would be 10 billion. Obviously at the moment, it's nowhere near that. We're looking at about 30%. By end of this year will have been unlocked across both. And so, we built, more broadly speaking, we built our tokenomics, with longevity in mind. So, our distribution for the actual YLDY token will happen. I mean, it's almost infinite just by virtue of the way that we've designed it. But, by 7 or 8 years' time, that will be when the majority of tokens will have been locked. If you put that in contrast to other projects out there, that's this is an epoch in crypto, and so most projects sort of tend to distribute over 1 or 2 years. We've chosen a much more longer term view for that. So we've had a number of VCs participate in with us early, and those guys are locked well into 2023. We've had our team as well, locked for a number of years, I think 4 years. And then, the majority of rewards will also be locked, as I mentioned, for sort of 7 or 8 years. So it's designed with longevity in mind. Right. One thing we're certainly going to be doing in 2022 is a governance token, and that will allow community to have a more direct voice in things. So, there is flexibility to change those types of tokenomics with governance. We've seen that work exceptionally well for token holders, and participants in other protocols or projects. And so we sort of would love to, to get to the world where there is much clearer relationship between token holders and the direction of the company. At the moment, the feedback loops are extremely small. You listen on Twitter or Telegram and what your users are thinking, but we want to empower our users to do that as well. But that's all to say, we design for the long term, and we've sort of building products for the long term, and sort of don't see ourselves going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, great, fantastic. And it sounds like certainly long-term vision, long-term roadmap, and a great ecosystem to be building on. And I think certainly a super exciting future for YLDY. I guess last sort of question for me: why did you choose ZLaunch? Why did you want to work with Zipmex? And what has this been about for you guys? Yeah,
we're delighted to be doing it, and we've known Marcus for a number of years through both having had long histories in crypto. The stuff that you guys have built is, on the, absolute bleeding edge of tech. The way that you're building, like us, is very much geared to the long term. You allow projects like us to speak to a market that we couldn't do before. You have a tremendous number of users. I think last count, you'll probably correct me, but it was over 1 million.
Yeah, just over 1 million.
Yeah, across Southeast Asia, which is, for us, that unlocks a whole, new region, and allows us to engage much more directly in a region that is incredibly relevant for this industry. But we, as a small team, just don't have the resources, or haven't historically had the resources to do. Delighted to be able to do that with you guys. The distribution that we're getting, the number of people that have participated is just blowing our minds. It means that there's huge communities that we can now tap into and speak very directly to. We have great partnerships with other, for example, esports teams in Thailand or esports teams in Indonesia. And so we also love that we can start utilising our kind of partners there, jointly with the Zipmex team, to start telling stories and educating people about what we're up to and why it's relevant, and, make it very meaningful as well. So, tremendous tool for us to grow, hugely important as a piece of the ecosystem. And, you guys are, focused on doing it the right way, taking a very long view on it, and we're love partners like that. And it was such an easy yes when we had the opportunity to do it.
Great. Well, look, Sebastian, thanks so much for joining us. As I said, this is a really exciting moment for us, and we're absolutely delighted that we've been able to partner with YLDY as our first project. Really look forward to catching up again down the track, giving our investors updates as to how your roadmap's coming along, and looking at adding a lot more token holders through Zipmex into the YLDY ecosystem.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for having us.
Thanks, Sebastian. And as we said, the YLDY token will be available on the Zipmex exchange very soon in the coming days. days, and you'll be able to buy, sell, and trade on YLDY.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.